Now it's time to introduce our keynote speaker, Dr. Michael Warren. Michael graduated with his Bachelor in Science and Music Education in 2017, got his Master's of Science in Education Administration in 2018, and a Doctor of Education degree in Educational Leadership. As a scholar, he has been selected as the Project Hope Fellow and was the recipient of a number of awards and recognitions for his commitment and service to his community, social justice, equity in education, and for his many accomplishments after graduating from the Mary Pappert School of Music. Currently, Dr. Warren serves as a principal of Arrowhead Elementary School in Olentangy local school district. He's the first BIPOC artist in residence for the Pittsburgh Youth Chorus, a member of the Three Rivers Young People's Orchestra Board of Directors, and chairs the board of the directors for the nonprofit organization known as a Dream House. Now the list goes on, so I'll cut it short, but feel free to Google him. He's very, very special. And whether through music, which my parents always said was the universal language, teaching or in speaking events, he's moving mountains. And he hopes to have an impact on many lives, especially the lives of marginalized youth. Dr. Warren believes that when stakeholders come together in a community and unite, they can change the world. Dr. Warren, we agree with you, sir. And it's our pleasure to have you here with us this evening. Please join me in giving a warm WLN welcome to Dr. Michael Warren.
Thank you so much. Oh, I'm excited. I got a whole lot to say in a little bit of time. So I'm going to tell you how I work, though. I grew up in the black church. You give me a couple amens, I'll give you a benediction. I heard one over there. Can I get it on this side? There we go. Listen, I just want to say, first of all, the video that they shared, I had a chance to see it a few months ago. I'm new to Pittsburgh. I'm from Pittsburgh. I'm new to Columbus. And I watched that, and the first thing I thought was, how do I get involved? Because it just spoke so much to me, the mission that they're doing. I'm going to share a whole lot, but it spoke to me. And so, you know, Brandon and Gina, the work that you're doing with United Way, Room to Grow, Women's Leadership Network, it's just incredible. And I have a lot to say why, and I'm so connected to this work, but it excites me that folks are invested in changing the lives of our young people. Can I get an amen? Amen. And I say that because oftentimes we forget about this population, and then we're the first to complain about why can't they do X right, and then we look at incarceration rates high, and there's all these things wrong, and there's a moment where we can come together as a people to figure out what is our role, what is our call, and y'all see that number that needs to get to 160, yes, but ultimately, how are we going to commit to changing the lives of folks? And so that's why I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to share some of my story. When I share this story, I go different routes because on one hand, people see Dr. Warren or, you know, Mr. Warren or Michael J. Warren. If you check my album out, A Song of Peace, it's on iTunes, Spotify, shameless plug. But at the end of the day, I'm a young dude. I always say I'm a nobody serving a somebody trying to help everybody. And I say that because I recognize, and I'm going to say this a lot tonight. My goal by the end of this is to remind you nothing about my story should be exceptional when you have people like you in the room, because you have the opportunity to make this the expectation for all people, black, white, young, old. I feel like I'm talking to myself. Let me go to this side of the room. We have an opportunity to change lives, and we have to stop looking at folks like, wow, what a great exception to the rule, and wow, our plan and our process worked, and you are what we expected to see when we gave our money, when we gave our time, when we gave our efforts, can I get an amen, somebody? Come on now, I got like 36 minutes to go. Come on. First of all, I want to give a couple shout-outs. I'm excited, and she does not know I'm going to do this, but I want to shout out Emily House, who's in the room, because it is National School Counselors Week, and Emily House from Arrowhead is here, so I just wanted to shout her out real quick. Emily, we appreciate the work that you do. She's here accompanied by her husband. I got my man, Tyler Bradford, my assistant principal, a great dude, a great friend. I'm glad to see him here. I did not know, so I was shocked. So if you saw me standing, I have not seen my sister in a very long time. I'm from Pittsburgh, and my sister made the trip from Pittsburgh with my pat. So I'm excited to see her. And then to a woman who has just changed my life and has seen me go through many things in the last 10 years, who's been my partner and my best friend, Kayla. I'm excited that you're here tonight. Thank you for showing up. I appreciate you. I love you, Shorty. I remember, and Kenitha, having her here is emotional because she knows a lot of this stuff, my real sister. I remember in 2011, my sister is a knucklehead, and none of us like school. I just want to make that clear, but she definitely didn't like school, and she made those things clear. She would tell the teachers how she felt. She'd tell her mother how she felt. So a little backstory, we were adopted in 2002. I was in 6 foster homes by the time I was 7 years old, and I remember my mother, who adopted me, I remember saying I didn't want to be adopted. It wasn't something I was interested in, but if you know anything about the system, and at least in Pennsylvania, you don't really have much of a say under 12. Fast forward to 2011, after 10 years of being in the home of my mother, we went back into the foster care system from what they called a failed adoption. About to graduate high school. I blame my sister, just so we're clear. If I could tell you how the argument started, she went off on the teachers, hit her report card, got in trouble, stuff like that. You remember that story, right? Mm-hmm. We had a failed adoption. So I'm about to graduate high school. And just so I can explain how this starts and how this impacts you, you've already been in 6 foster homes. This idea of rejection and neglect, it's inevitable, especially when you've been adopted. And I remember graduation time, high school, June 12th, Saturday. My real mom was supposed to show, but she got messed up with the drugs that she was on. My dad, I don't know where he's at. And I remember my adopted mom never showed, and I had my sister there, and it sucked because all these years I've been in this home, and what do you have to show for it? Part of my language, Olin Tangi, not a damn thing, because all those people who raised me, who were charged to love me, they weren't there. Fast forward to first semester in college. I went away about an hour away outside of Pittsburgh, and I remember first semester, so excited. I got sick. Gained about 100 pounds in 2 months, had a thyroid problem. Preparing for a final, passed out. They thought I was having a heart attack, rushed to the emergency room. It's the first time. 2012, I dropped out. I used to believe that there's a connection between who you are mentally and who you are physically. You can't separate what you see here if this thing together isn't where it needs to be. And at this time, I had just gone back into foster care. I've been sick, in and out of the hospital, not to mention the only black person in an all-white campus. Somebody know what I'm talking about. Hello, look at me here. No, I'm just joking. And I said, I dropped out, and I remember being in the hospital the first time, got back into school. My biological mom ended up moving up to where we went to college, and it was triggering for me because you haven't been there all my life, and now here you are. And I remember her thing was, I want to be involved. And she ended up moving up the street. I'm in college, got sick again. Well, unfortunately, my mother also got sick. So I'm in the hospital for a week. She's in the hospital. I'm released from the hospital February 14th, 2013. And unfortunately, my mother was never released. 10 years this March will be the anniversary of the time that my mother passed away. And it was hard. Not to mention they found a mass on my chest, on my lungs. My kidneys were failing. And for the second time, I dropped out of college. I'm angry. Because in my mind, and this is where, and I'm going to talk a lot about this. This stuff goes on right now. Delaware County, Franklin County, that's the only 2 I know in Ohio, so pardon me. But it goes on everywhere. And it doesn't matter what you look like, right? But the reality was I was angry at everyone. I'm angry at my crackhead mother who can't get her life together. Can I be honest for a second? I'm angry at my adopted mother who took me in and then told me, A, you're a mistake, and B, you can go because the money stops coming at 18. I was angry. I'm angry at the people who are expected to be there for you. I'm angry at the flawed system. You got these foster care systems who do a lot of vetting, and people who want kids can't get kids, and the people who don't need no damn kids got a lot of them. I feel like I'm talking to myself. I'm angry. All right. That ain't the clapping part. I'm sorry. Stop cussing, Michael. Okay. Also, shout out to Debbie in the back. Debbie, where you at? There you go. Hey. That's our intervention aide in the back. I love you. It's good to see you. I feel like if I'm going to shout people out from Arrowhead, let me get them all. So I'm angry, and I'm just being honest. So I remember my mom died, and it was like, who's going to bury her? 19 years old, and again, this is 2013. 19 years old, and I decided to take charge. I was going to bury my mother, the woman who didn't take care of me, the woman who couldn't take care of me, and that was my charge. And after I had dropped out of school the second time and we buried my mother in March of 2013, my question was, where do you go from here? Remember, I became a ward of the court at 17. I'm a year away from turning 21 because it was March. I was about to be 20. And I was in a foster home at the time. I guess I should have said that. Decided to go back to school. Told me I couldn't transfer my credits. So I had to start from the beginning. I'm already angry because I hate school. Now I got to start over. And after a while, you hear so many negative things about you. You're not smart. You're going to be like your mother. No one ever loved you. You hear these things. You start to believe these things. And all I want to do is do something that reminds Michael that you're good enough. Can you have something? Like we don't know what the hell success looks like. We haven't seen it yet. Pin on that. Success is whatever you want it to be. And you need to understand what that looks like for you. Unpause. So as we're sitting there, I get back in school, excited to start my journey, and my foster family puts me out. Kenitha, you remember it was Christmas, Thanksgiving. The agency sent money for us. The family took the money. They went on a trip to Atlanta and left us $40 for 5 days. And I'll never forget it. And I remember we're sitting there in this home, and I'm angry, because when is it going to stop? And then the worst part, these are people who chose to take me in. Michael, I recognize what you're going through. Congratulations, brother, on your award. Yes, sir. Michael, I recognize what you're going through. Let us help you. But then you feel like folks are, again, manipulating the situation, taking advantage of you. And I remember I called the university. I was at a Catholic school, and I said, I need somewhere to stay. Please help me. So they gave me a room, found some additional aid, lived here for a little while, and then come summertime, they said, hey, we can't keep you any longer. Well, that was summer of 2014, and I also just turned 21. I'm about to drop out again. If I can pause for a second, I'm more angry, because I didn't ask for this life. You know what angers me, if I could be real with y'all? I didn't ask for this. And that's how a lot of people feel. And I'm not speaking for Michael right now. I'm going to speak for folks like MJ. I'm going to tell you a story that I don't know. I'm going to speak for MJ. I'm going to speak for the folks who were in my study when I looked at these. We didn't ask for this. But this is the life that we were handed. And you hear things like, oh, when life hands you lemonade, lemons make lemonade. Well, hell, I don't drink it, okay? Let me just be honest. And if I can be even more real, some of us aren't thinking about that right now. So here I am ready to drop out a third time. And I remember, and this is why this mission is so dear to me. I remember someone called me. I had been in and out of homes. I had been staying with different friends. And someone told me about a housing program for kids 18 to 24 who were homeless, at risk of being homeless, or who were in CYF. Well, I was no longer in CYF because I already aged out. At this time, I sat at a table with 5 different agencies preparing for my departure from the system, and they gave me a list of homeless shelters. How am I going to finish school and figure out what I'm going to do with my life? My health was already still crazy, while trying to figure out where to live. You talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We can't get to the top until the foundational component is set. And if you don't got food on a regular, income on a regular, or housing, affordable housing at that, how are we I don't get it, right? That's, on one hand, I'm so proud of where we are now, but it angered me because there's so many things in place right now to help people who are homeless. You got the McKinney-Vento Act. I'm not going to bore you with my research. Don't bore, skip to the chorus. But the reality is this. There are things in place now to help us. Fast forward, they tell me about this program for 18 to 24-year-olds. And I said, listen, sign me up. And she said, well, it don't work like that. we got to do an interview. You got to have a case manager. I said, no, listen. I'm a sophomore in college. I'll be a junior soon. I just need somewhere to stay. This is 2015, 2 years after my mom died. And I'll never forget, she sat me down one day, and the anger that you hear was the anger that I gave this woman. And my pitch was, give me somewhere to stay, because I'm ready to prove everybody wrong. Well, so it sounds good in theory, but what I realized is that's not going to sustain you either. You had to get to the point where, Michael, I'm going to prove you right. I decided long ago never to walk in anyone's shadow. Who know the song? Come on. Come on, baby. I love it. I love it. But I said, I'm angry and I'm mad at my mom. And this is what she said to me, and this is what I want you to take away. She said, so what? What are you going to do about it? And I'm like, no, don't ask. Don't offend me, Miss Sharon. I'm mad because they did this and they did that, and here's what happened. And she said, but what are you going to do about it? And honestly, I never thought about it. And I said, well, I can't think about that right now. I just need a place to stay. And her argument was, we're more than a housing program. That sounds cute, baby, but I just need rent. Affordable rent with my $8 an hour at Target, okay? I got the apartment. I'll never forget the first day I moved in February of 2015. They had furnished the house, the apartment, the one bedroom. And I remember for the first time, I was looking at my suitcase and I said, oh my gosh, I can actually unpack my bags. I'm not asking for an applause. Here's what I want you to take away. Just think about it. Some of the folks are dealing with this in high school. Some of those folks are seniors in high school. Some of the folks are going to college. And some things that you consider success, some of us just want the basics, like being able to buy your first pair of shoes, being able to afford dinner every night. And I'm a big man. I was a bigger man, but I'm working on that. But the reality was this. For the first time, I was able to deal with the fact that my bags are unpacked. That was natural. Let me make it metaphorical for you. For the first time in my life, I was able to deal with the baggage in my life. Y'all picking up what I'm putting down? I had never processed the fact that my mother was gone. You don't got time to think about death when I'm trying to stay alive every day. And I remember calling Miss Sharon and I said, I get it. This is more than a housing program. Because if I can tell you something, Gina, and this is for anybody who's going to invest in this program that I believe is going to change lives, if the goal is to provide housing, you're failing already. The goal is to set folks up to deal with some of the stuff they're dealing with, because there are some real barriers and some real demons that folks face when you're dealing with homelessness. And more importantly, the goal is to set you up for independence so you don't need them in 6 months, in a year, in 2 years. The goal is to see them off their way and to never have to have them come back. And then hopefully they're here contributing $10,000. That's my goal for myself. But I'm saying that to say you don't want to set folks up to become dependent. The goal is to help really deal with some independence things. So I started things like counseling and things of that nature. But Ms. Sharon used to say, so what are you going to do about it? So as she challenged me, I decided to go and stay in school. It was hard. 2017, I graduated with a 3.4 GPA, and I was pissed. I'm going to tell you why I was mad. Because all my friends got summa cum laude and magna cum laude, and I was like, cum laude? I didn't get any of that. That was funny, Kayla, right? Thank you. But what excited me, hold on. Can I celebrate this? Yo, I graduated. And something hit me, and I'm skipping around, hold on, I got 22 more minutes. Something excited me about that, because I graduated May the 11th of 2013 while still living in a homeless organization. And I got hired at an all-white school, and I was so excited, and then I realized something. Oh, my gosh. I've been dealing with myself for years. They set me up, but I got a real job, but I can't afford rent. I'll never forget the day she said to me, our goal, what have you learned in this process? And we talked about saving. We talked about dealing with some of the things that were holding me back. We talked about my why, my so what, so what are you going to do about it? And she said, listen, that was the purpose of this program. Go and make us proud. They wrote me a check for my first month's rent and a security deposit. Since then, I've owned 2 homes. I've paid for multiple apartments. I'm not bragging about that. I hate it. Purchased multiple cars. I went from renting zip cars to take Kayla to Eaton Park in Pittsburgh, Cheesecake Factory on these dates, but we got to be done by 9 because my reservation is over at 9. And I celebrate the fact that I bought a car. I leased my first one and was only paying $200 because we had a price matching program where if you put down some money, they'll match it. I was able to beat the system, put down $3,000 from a school loan. Amen, somebody. Then they gave me $3,000. I basically got $6,000 free. I say that now, but my deferment period ends in a couple of months, so I'm going to be paying somebody back for a while. But it excited me. They paid for my first month's rent. And I remember it is nice. So then I got excited because I started teaching, and I realized, I was out in the suburbs, and I struggled. And this is where I want to change the conversation. Because then it was like, here's where you are, but what are you going to do with that? What is your promise to yourself, Michael? And more importantly, what do you believe you're called to do? And I said, I'm called to change lives. And I started to think about Sharon Langford, the person who told me this is more than a housing program, and you got to start dealing with you. I started to think about the Henry Biggs in my life who taught me how to put on cufflinks, because what I was doing was innovative, but it's not right. I thought about the people who stood by my side when I had nothing to offer. And then one of my goals was, if there's anything I can do, what is it? And my promise to myself was, anyone who goes to bed with unrequited love, I want to remind them that they're loved. And at the time, I felt like all I'm good at is music. I could sing a little bit. That's what they told me. And so I decided I was going to be a music teacher. And I was mad because I got to suburban school, and I was like, I wanted to work with kids who looked like me. And one kid came up to me, he trouble, and he said to me one day, he said, listen, because he was in lunch detention, is what he told everyone. And as I'm talking to him about his lunch detention, he said, keep asking me questions. My mom's going through a second divorce, and no one talks to me at home. And I realized something in this very wealthy community. Some of the same things I lived, some of the same rejections I felt, this was the reality of many of the kids that I was serving. And what I learned is trauma and these heartaches and these challenges, they weren't particular to a zip code. They didn't care about your skin color. And quite frankly, this is one of those things that encouraged me at that time. And I said, wow, there's a need everywhere. And I heard Miss Sharon's voice. So what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? And I thought to myself, nothing. I ain't got no money, so this will be clear. Then I decided I'm going to step out on faith, and I'm going to apply for this master's program. I love teaching choir. I love teaching music at the time, but I wanted to do something more. So I went and got my master's. I did a year accelerated program while working. I'm crazy, I know. Kayla was like, you're definitely crazy, and I don't know who this dude is. Most of the time, she didn't want me there. I know, it's true. Finished my master's, and I just had a heart for social justice. Because I started asking people questions. We got mad folks with mad money, yet we got mad folks still living under bridges, living in their cars. Then what angered me, we got all these teacher prep, and don't go to this road, Michael, but you're already there, so go for it. Looking at the camera here, because I don't want nobody mad at me. We got all these teacher prep programs teaching people how to teach kids, dealing with realities that don't exist in the schools, where kids actually listen all the time. That's not a reality, because folks got real problems and real challenges. So then I realized, we need real people to help show them. I know what it's like to come to school hungry. Here's a chocolate bar. To hell with the school policy. You are hungry. You can't learn if you're hungry, and you damn sure can't. Michael, stop. You can't learn from people you don't like who can't relate to some of the things you're dealing with. And it excited me because I realized suburban, urban, rural, it didn't matter. Dude, you have a job to change lives. My best friend, Malcolm X, once said, that was a joke. When I is replaced with we, even illness becomes wellness. And I adopted that mentality because I realized there's nothing we can't do when we do it together. Can I get an amen, somebody? So it excited me. So I went on, I finished my program, and this is where I'm going to fast forward because I don't want this night to be about me. I don't want this night to be about what you've done. I want this night to be about what then are all these 300 folks in this room going to do about it. Finished my program for my master's, and I went on to my doctorate, and I started to write about the lack of black people in schools. And it excited me. But I realized that's not where my heart was. I knew the statistics, 2% of teachers in America are black men, and I was like, well, I had some really good ones. That's going to be me. And one day I was giving a speech, and my sister gave a video, and my wife gave a video, and one of the things they talked about was, all the things I had been through. And my professor said, you're not interested in this, are you? And I said, what do you mean? He says, tell me what drives you. And I said, it hurts my heart that so many young people are homeless. It hurts my heart that so many young people are bearing the burdens of the folks before them. It breaks my heart. I didn't ask my mom to drugs and alcohol. Can I be honest? I didn't ask for that. I definitely didn't ask to be adopted and then given away. I didn't ask for professors. My professor said to me one day, I need a ride to student teaching. Can you put me on a bus line? We don't put kids on bus lines. We talked with you and your parent when you enrolled. It's expected that you have a way. And I said, well, you must not talk to Michael. My mom's been dead for a couple years. I got a nasty sense of humor, so that definitely wasn't funny. But it also spoke to the fact that I'm sitting here learning from a dude who's teaching me how to serve kids, and he can't even remember the fact that my mom's been gone. At that point, I realized it was something that stuck with me, like, dude, you're on your own. But can I tell y'all something? I was never on my own. I had folks who believed in me, who supported me all the way. And so it brings me back to, so what's my job now? And I'm speaking about us. What is our role? Then I thought about when I started my program and my doctoral program, and I switched my research to homeless education. I started learning all these fancy words and half the stuff I couldn't pronounce, but I better do it if I'm going to defend in 3 years. And it really excited me, but it also angered me a little bit more. I'm doing a research project in April about a young girl, 5 years old, and 6-year-old brother, kindergarten, who had to catch the bus 40 minutes each way to get to school, because the policy technically says transportation is required, but there are loopholes around how we provide that transportation. I don't know how y'all systems work here in Columbus, but 40 minutes on a bus is a lot. And I don't know who's really going to put their 5 and 6-year-old alone, but nobody. And I was an assistant principal at the time, and this is when I realized, oh my gosh, Michael, this is why you're here. I'll never forget. My first question was, who's putting them on the bus alone? Then my second question was, nobody, so what are we going to do to help the mom? But then my third question became a bigger issue. We're talking about a 25-year-old woman with little kids. How's she going to work a job? She got to drive 40 minutes on the bus one way, 40 minutes back for a 7.5-hour day, which means she has to do it again before the day is over, and it angered me. And that's when I started understanding there are policies in place, but most policies are created when there's an issue. So, hey, I'm going to bring an issue to the table and figure out how we're going to fix this. So I'm talking about the intersectionality between COVID-19, homelessness, and being black all at the same time, which is a whole nother problem, but I don't know if y'all notice I'm black. So I'm going to tell you that too. My point is this. Our young people need our help. And if there's one thing I've learned in my little bit of life, and I'll be 30 in May, I'm so excited. I know, right? Old. That dude is old. Tyler's older. If there's one thing I've learned is when I lived in the hood, there was a need. We live in the suburbs, and I was a principal in the suburbs. I was a teacher in the suburbs. I worked in the city. There was a need. Boys, girls. And if there's one thing we all had in common, it was this. We just needed help. We needed people to support us. I came to 3 realizations in my research. How young people in homelessness envision support systems was one of the challenges, but also one of the things that would really set them up for success. In that was, who do you consider family? One of the other things, hey, Pap, did I say hi to Pap already too? I just want to make sure. How we envision family. And then one of the other things we talked about was education. It's something that we wanted. But for me at the time, I'm living in a shelter, struggling with the basic needs. I was on food stamps, had health care. But I said, if I have the right people and the right systems to set me up, There's nothing I can't do. And then that's where my charge to you all is. When I look at what they're doing with this home, the first thing I see is this is an opportunity where they're providing housing. But can I tell you something? The housing isn't the most important thing. This is a moment when they're investing in young people who are trying to learn who they are, believe in who they are, define what success looks like for them, and see themselves on the road to a path that leads them to success. And it starts with providing housing. Because in that, someone's going to come in there 18 to 24 and unpack their bags for the first time. And then from there, they're going to put their clothes in a drawer, and while sitting in this beautifully furnished apartment that y'all made available and possible, they're going to start to unpack some of the things that they've dealt with in life. And then realize, while yes, there's nothing I can do about what has happened to me, with the right people in my life, I have an opportunity to not make this condition my final destination. I have an opportunity with the right people and with the right supports to move from exception to what's expected. What's expected, y'all, is your help. I stand before you as Dr. Michael Warren, but to Kenitha, I was the annoying little sister, because we used to get that mixed up. I said it right. I used to say, I'm not your sister anymore. I learned years later, I'm definitely not her sister. But we have an opportunity, when I look at certain people, folks just see Michael. And if you strip all the titles and you strip all the degrees, I'm simply a person who struggled for years with figuring out what is my role in life. But then there were people, organizations like Room to Grow, like the United Way, like the Women's Leadership Network, who understood that there's something special in this young dude, and if we come together, we get to see the fruit of our labor. And if we're lucky, he might be the principal at Arrowhead Elementary School. I like to tell you that a lot of what I've done on my own, but that's not true. And that's your call. There were people, there were things, there were systems in place to help me. And my hope is that you'll understand and believe and accept that you have an opportunity to help the next generation of people who come in who have way different stories, like the young lady who was on the screen, like MJ who came up here. No one's looking for a savior. No one's looking for a handout. Someone's looking for someone who's going to reach out and say, what can I do to help you? Y'all may know the old song, reach out and touch somebody's hand, make this world a better place if you can. Who sings that song? I don't remember either. It's okay. I know it was Anita Baker. But my point was, we're looking for someone who's going to say, what can I do to help? How can you and I work together to change who you see yourself as and to hopefully impart the impact that you're going to have on this world? I'm so excited to be where I am today, but I'd be lying if I told you I was finished with what I was called to do. My hope is to continue to go and advocate for the 18 to 24 population of young people who experience the homeless. But my hope is to really make sure we bring attention to all of the marginalized communities, even the ones in Delaware County, the kids from Olentangy, the kids from Delaware Public Schools. It doesn't matter. And my question is, and this is what I want you to take away from this, how can I help? How can I create a positive influence on helping that person see themselves with their fullest potential? And that's my question. That's my charge. It's rhetorical. Take it with you how you will. And for some of you, it's going to be a financial contribution. For some of you, it's going to be volunteering at the house. For some of you, it's going to be finding a way to take this house that's going to house 6 of them and figuring out how do we get more. Because the reality is the need is there. But I thank you, United Way, and what you all are doing to make sure you understand and accept the fact that it's got to start somewhere. It's been an honor standing before you sharing some of my story, but if there's one thing I leave you with, it's the fact that there's some real individual work that has to take place to get where you are. And this is me speaking to all the young people who are going to come into these houses. But you all are going to help give them a place to start to deal with those things. But if I were to sing a song, which I love to sing, I always talk about how could you sum this up in a song. And I get excited about this one. I always say this. I decided long ago never to walk in anyone's shadow. If I fail, if I succeed, at least I'd live as I believe. No matter what they take from me, they can't take away my dignity. Because the greatest love of all is happening to me. I found the greatest love of all inside of me. The greatest love of all is easy to achieve. You see, learning to love yourself, it is the greatest love of all. And if by chance that special place that you've been dreaming of, if it leads you to a lonely place, find your strength in love, in love. Thank you. Y'all have a good evening. It's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure.